Hello friends, greetings from Thegama again. I think I'll throw up a video of our weather today, sunny or partly sunny, but very windy. So you may hear some of the gusts as they come through here every once in a while. Well, we're in our 32nd day of confinement, and the situation advances, as you well know. There's a lot of nasty politics going on here in Spain, as well as there in the States and in other countries. I know it's true as well. And we need to be careful as believers to really stay out of that nastiness. Nothing has changed in thousands of years of politics, and we need to maintain our Christian focus to keep it where it should be, on the Lord and on our daily duty, loving Him and serving Him. Okay, well, I'm slowly running out of characters. I've got a few more I think I'll deal with, and so thank you for some suggestions, and if some of you haven't and have some in mind, why, please let me know. And even if it's outside of this category, if you have something you'd like me to address, a person or a topic, why, I'll be open to at least considering it. No guarantees there, but if I feel comfortable with it, I will definitely be happy to try and deal with other subjects if as the Lord leads. So, but today, oh man, I hope you're enjoying a cup of coffee. I wish you could have some coffee as good as what we have. Okay, today I'd like to look at Naaman's young maid. So let me read a few verses out of 2 Kings chapter 5. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. Interesting wording there. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid. And she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. Okay, what an interesting little story of a little girl. The brutal facts are that this young girl was kidnapped by some kind of raiding Syrian guerrilla unit of some sort, taken to a foreign country, made the slave of a wife of a powerful military man. She found herself suddenly in a different culture, with a different language, a different religion. Everything, pretty much, was different. But incredibly, as the story unfolds, she shares information, special information that only she knew, about a prophet named Elisha, who she doesn't actually name, and at least not in the scriptures. And this results in the healing of her master's leprosy. Okay, a little bit of historical background. The king at this time in Israel, this is the northern kingdom, is Jehoram. And to place him a little bit, or to place the historical context, if you remember Ahab, the king who married Jezebel and had the conflict with Elijah and all of that, well, this is his son. One of his sons who reigned, Joram. And so we are at this point, we're almost halfway through the kings of Israel, of the northern kingdom. Not quite halfway, to place it in the timeline there. A little bit of geography. Syria, one of the oldest countries in the world, inhabited continuously. Syria is just northeast of Israel. I'm going to throw up some maps, give you an idea where it is. It touches Turkey on the north, Jordan on the south, Lebanon, and it touches Israel just a tiny little bit. You've probably heard of the Golan Heights, which is a fairly big strip of land. If you remember pictures of Galilee, and there's a mountain range behind Galilee that overlooks it. Anyway, you can go up into that range, and we had the privilege of doing this several years ago, about 13 years ago, and you can look down on Syria, on the plains of Syria. They're green, well, at least when we were there, and looked very, very fertile. Anyway, that's Syria, and it touches right there. And also, if you go up to the northern part of the country where Dan is, and the altar that Jeroboam built, from that spot you can also look into Syria. Okay, so that's a little bit of the geography. Okay, let's look first of all at Naaman, although he's not the primary character for the devotional, but he has to be part of it. Okay, the Bible gives us a five-fold description of him. First, he was the commander, so he was the highest military man, at least in that part of Syria. He was great before his master. He was a public figure, a huge figure. He was honorable, was a good man, and we're going to find out more about that. His name, by the way, means gracious or fair. Very significant, interesting coincidence there. And it says he was also, the fourth thing, was a mighty man of valor. That's an emphatic way of saying he was a man's man. He was a courageous fighter, military man. The fifth thing, but he was a leper. What was leprosy? Well, it was at least a serious skin disease, not necessarily fatal, and in fact, in this case, it does not appear. It actually went to Elisha's servant, and it was not fatal to him, at least not right off the bat. It could have been just a very serious, could have been painful, it could have been ugly, something that marred his face and his skin. We don't know what kind it was. Then another statement the scriptures make about Naaman is that the Lord had given him victory for Syria. Very significant words. That's a huge statement made by the passage there in 2 Kings. He was blessed of God. Really? What does that mean? Well, there was something unique about him. And as I thought about him for this devotional, other names came to mind. People outside of Israel who God knew their hearts and knew that they were searching. I think of Rahab. I think of Ruth. Maybe even the king of Nineveh. People who responded to the truth. Okay, so Naaman, and this is the last thing I'll mention about him right now. He was initially angry at Elisha's instructions, as you know, but he listened to his servants who said, hey, just do what he says and dunk yourself 7 times in the Jordan. He listened to them. That seems out of character with most men who would be brutal, maybe authoritarian commanders in the military. So he was special. He also showed gratitude and respect for Elisha and Jehovah. So, unusual man for sure. And now the young girl. Focus on her. She's our main person for this devotional. She lived for Naaman's wife. She was a slave, a servant. Probably no payment, no promise of freedom. She was a slave for Naaman's wife. However, the fact that she spoke, as it says, she spoke with her mistress, I think it indicates a good relationship. It's more than just speaking. There was conversation going on. This was an unusual little girl. There's no sign of bitterness, which would have been totally natural. She was snatched from her country. I'm assuming her family was slaughtered. I would think so. Maybe not, but I would think so. But there's no sign of bitterness. And then notice her words, and I see some things in her words. First of all, she said, would to God, if only my master, if only. What does that show? It shows compassion. It shows compassion in this little girl's heart. Then it was, would God my Lord or my master. And that shows respect for her authority. So there's compassion, there's respect, and then he said he would deliver him. If only he would do that, Elisha the prophet would heal him. And that shows faith. We have compassion, respect, and faith in this little girl. Remarkable girl. Okay, the end of the story is that they send a letter to the king of Israel. He goes bonkers, but eventually Naaman makes it to Elisha. He washes in the Jordan and returns to Syria with the skin of a child. Good ending of that part of the story. Okay, some observations to wrap it up. Ultimately, nobody is insignificant in God's story. Nobody. And they are not anonymous either. Heaven will make sure of that. There will be no anonymous heroes or anonymous participants or people in God's kingdom. Her conversation with Naaman's wife shows us that she decided she would make the best of a bad situation with love and kindness. What an example. She decided that God wanted her in that place for a reason. Is that the way we see ourselves, where God has put us? The very few words that came from her mouth that we have, very few, just a few, just one phrase, say a lot about her if you look at them closely. One more observation about Naaman. God knew this man's heart, and we may learn a lot more about him one day in heaven. And then another observation, when the governments or authorities over us make decisions that are difficult to live with, let's keep our focus. Keep our focus, Christian, godly. I'm guessing that it wasn't easy in the first century to live under Roman rule. It wasn't always pleasant. But there is an attitude we see in the scriptures, and we should imitate that. Okay, one final thought. And for that, I'm going to read a verse. I've got it here. I'll just read off the screen. I'm going to read some verses out of Colossians. It says, servants, it's Colossians 3:22. Servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God. And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that of the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ. And my question is, how did that little girl know that verse? Because she obeyed it perfectly. What an amazing thing. Are you serving God in a tiny place? Maybe just with, and I know people in our ministry who serve with one person. That's what they do all day long, is they serve one, maybe an elderly gentleman or an elderly lady. That's all they do. If you do that, or if you're in a very small context, be faithful there where you are. We will meet this little girl one day, and what a day that will be to get to know her. God bless you. Have a great day where you are. See you next time.